Hello, my name is Kai, and I am a bit of a rambler. I like to travel, learn, and tell stories. And today we're going to cut me down to size. Because when I talk with people, I often hear, "You make it sound so easy." I agree, I definitely do make traveling sound easy. That is partly because I've been doing it for so long. Well over almost 15 years now. And at this point, there's nothing easier. I buy a ticket and then I'm traveling again, and I'm still saving money. And I check myself, especially in the beginning when I was talking about it, and my friends back in the States would be like, "What are you talking? There's no way it can be that easy. There's no way you can be saving that much money without any training or anything." And I had to check myself and be like, "Is this real? Am I, is this a valid choice that is providing me with so much value and practically no downsides? Is this really as simple as I'm making it sound?" And every time I checked, the answer was yes. I wrote down numbers and compared charts, I checked bank accounts, I compared the working hours, and I talked to lots of people, both veterans and first-time travelers, people from many countries. Everybody was traveling, but especially if you are a native or fluent English speaker, then traveling is open to you even if you don't have a job yet. And besides checking with myself, I would talk to all the teachers around me, and we'd all be sitting around having a beer after work, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I can't believe this is real, but this is real. We're all doing it. We're all saving money, doing the most important job in the world, teaching the youth about the world and giving them better opportunities." Even just teaching English, I truly believe, does do that for a lot of countries, broadening cultural perspectives. And then, more particularly, I would check in that same question, is this as easy as I think it is? With new recruits that we brought to our school, or that I had helped to start traveling if they were in particular need, they have no job, or it's just impossible for them to find the job they want and they can't save any money, or they're going to get kicked out by their parents in a few weeks or whatever. Anybody who just came from the situation, they're all like, "There's no way it can be that easy." And then I tell them where to mail their passport so they can get their Chinese visa. I tell them where to buy their ticket, and then they come to China, and then it's over. Their process is over, and they're like, "Gee, I cannot believe how simple that was." Especially after they get their paycheck. Then they're just like, "Okay, I guess this is real, and I'm just living for a few $100s a month and saving thousands of dollars a month now. That's just my life." So I know it sounds easy, but in every way that I can, I have made sure that the things I'm recommending and the things that I have done myself are as simple as I am making them seem. They are outlandish, I know that. They sound simpler than any solution to financial destitution or boredom can be, but these are just practical steps you can take to start traveling long term. And traveling itself is the situation that lends itself to you saving money and learning so much about new cultures and broadening your perspective. Traveling is the magic bullet here, but as a American citizen, and frankly most citizens of other countries, you can just start traveling. And that's what we're talking about. The processes to get you traveling. That's all they are. People from other countries have told me these same processes work for them to start traveling as well. So let's talk about those simple methods. And it might not be the easiest thing in the world to move to another country, but it is very simple, and without any financial stressors, I find life much easier in general, and so do most travelers that I know. I don't know any travelers for any length of time who think their life is more difficult or complicated after they moved. And I've been meeting people for a very long time. So I'm going to stick by that. It is as easy as I'm making it sound. You need a passport, you need a ticket, and then you're a traveler. USA, American citizens, have these same concerns, and I've heard them over and over, that it just can't be that easy. If you are a native or fluent English speaker, especially if you have a passport. If you have a passport, there's nothing stopping you. Get a ticket, start teaching English in a couple days, and your financial stressors are gone. Just like that. Yes, it is just like that. When they say it can't be that easy, it seems like they're talking about other things, not the travel itself and not making money. That is objectively correct. You can travel and you can make money, and I can just, you can prove that pretty easily. Show them the job listings online if you already live in one of those countries, or show them the ticket prices. You can't really argue with the prices that are right there or the job offers that are right there waiting for English teachers. Most of these concerns seem to be other things that they are comfortable with and used to and just not familiar with in other countries because they haven't been to those other countries. Food is a big one. Like, yeah, but will they have food? Yes, they'll have food that you can eat no matter where you are. Chinese food is not very spicy in most parts of the country. And everybody has supermarkets, so you can buy whatever kind of food you like and make food yourself at home if for whatever reason you don't like any of the food in the country, which I've literally never heard of because it's a country. There are so many different foods you can buy. So you don't have to worry about food. But will they have my toiletries? Yes, all the supermarkets have every toiletry you could want, and the specialty shops have the specialties you want. They do have specialties for anyone. If you want sports equipment or camping equipment, they're going to have all the camping equipment you can get. If you just want to travel and go on a riverboat cruise, those are available. If you want to see live music, they have live music available. If you just want to not do anything, flat screens cost nothing abroad. They're like $20 for a giant flat screen. You just watch TV, play video games, and binge Netflix all day. Go wild. All of the things that you're used to that you get in your country, you can get them abroad while you're teaching English and saving money in another country. They'll call them a dianshi instead of a TV, but it's just a TV. It's the same thing. They're going to call it chow tai instead of stir fry, but it's stir fry and you can eat it. Like, there's nothing different about what they call it that keeps you from enjoying the same comforts and luxuries that you enjoy in your own country at a much lower price. The intangibles. People talk about culture shock, and I'm still not sure what they mean because it's not an actual shock. You're not going to swoon. It's not going to be an acute, life-threatening medical issue. It seems to refer to just a broad anxiety about being in a different place for the first time and things being superficially different. It's surprising. You're in a new country and the words might be different and the people might look different than you do. But I don't know. I guess the culture shock comes in if you've never traveled before. Maybe there's like a sliver of you that didn't really believe people really all spoke non-English languages in a different country, but you'll get over that very quickly once you're waiting in line at the supermarket to buy some beef jerky. Once you have a everyday experience like that, your mind snaps back into place and you're like, oh, this is like every other supermarket I've ever been to. You just pay and buy items. I can't actually recall any traveler in real life that I've met face-to-face who said, this is such culture shock. Oh, you know what? I thought of one. Because it was one of my teachers, and she was kind of overwhelmed the first week, and she said, I think she said this is something, the culture shock is so big or whatever. But she kept teaching for 2.5 more years, and then she's still traveling a decade later. She got over it. And I brought that up because I much more frequently, I do hear the word or the term culture shock a lot, but I always hear it from people who haven't traveled. They worry about the culture shock. But once you've actually traveled, culture shock sort of evaporates. It seems like all of us are wearing a fishbowl on our head, and that fishbowl is jam-packed full of all of our memories, so that anything we see outside of the fishbowl is occluded and influenced by all of the memories and experiences already jammed into our fishbowl, rather than the reality outside of our fishbowl. And since we can't see past all of those memories and experiences very clearly, there's a sort of anxiety about what lies beyond, outside in reality. And I would frame that as a precursor to culture shock. Especially in the US, such an isolated country, travel seems much more difficult than it is. But as soon as you travel, or buy the ticket and land in a new place, or like I said, you're standing in line at the supermarket, it'll hit you that, oh, that's because I was looking at it through my fishbowl. Outside of that, everything is normal and very straightforward and simple. And I feel like living outside of the country you were born in is very similar to leaving your parents' house for the first time and living by yourself. It's just a different world. All of a sudden, you are not a dependent. You are not this vassal or cog in the machine whose identity completely relies on the country or the family that brought you up and raised you. You are completely free to decide how to organize your reality and your life as you wish. The houses are the same, the neighborhoods are the same, the mailman is the same. It's you who are changing and looking at things differently. And I think it's as powerful a paradigmical shift in perspective as moving out of your parents' house for the first time and living by yourself. And after you've lived in a new country for the first time, you can look back on a lot of beliefs and cultural traditions of the country you came from, and they're going to look pretty quaint from where you are standing. That doesn't mean they aren't important, and when you are in that country or in that setting, you shouldn't respect and participate in those traditions if you value them, or even if you value the people who value them. But the idea that one language is the most important language and, well, of course everyone should speak English. It's the international business language, and it's so helpful, and this is the language that all that kind of stuff. In Laos, Laotian is the most famous language. They know English is important, but it's not the language. And they believe in that as strongly as native English speakers believe that English is the language, and as strongly as Cantonese speakers believe Cantonese is the language. But none of those languages are the language. They are all expressions of semantic meaning to each other and equally as valid. There's no reason to rank them, just no practical reason to do that at all, or to hold that sanctification of one language in particular above any other, or below any other. Or religion. You have loudspeakers blaring Allahu Akbar in Muslim-majority countries every morning and evening, and then you have Christians in churches and with little crosses on their car bumper sticker in Christian countries, and 33,000 different gods in Hindu religions. And it's nice that belief spurs people to take part in very creative and fascinating religious traditions, but that faith that all of those religious adherents have, that their religion is significant beyond the belief they put into it, that they are the only group of people who believe in the one special something, and that one special something is the only correct one special something, very clearly falls flat after you visit a few countries and everyone has that same complete devotional belief to a completely different concept. It's not that belief is bad, it's that a persistent belief in the superiority of a single reality or perception that you just happen to be familiar with is incorrect. The complete belief that, oh, this is how things are done, is not exactly wrong, but it is limiting, because it is not how things are done in other places. The Hindus in India do not understand that I don't have a religion. It's not that I'm an atheist. I would have to self-designate as an agnostic, I guess. But it's just not very interesting to me. There's a very clear devotional aspect to the human understanding of the world around us. Everywhere I've gone, there's a lot of people who want to believe in something, and it helps them understand the world. And there are totems like the Christian God or the Hindu gods or any gods, but none of them click as more real for any reason that I can see than any of the other gods. And that's totally okay, because that's not what God is for. When you ask people in whatever country you're in, what do you like about God? It's the structure that faith gives them in their life. And I think structure is very important and useful, so great. Or to switch tack from religion to something more tangible, living in the house with your parents versus living by yourself. In China, in a lot of Asian countries, like living for most of your lives in the same house as your parents is normal because that's how they grew up. That's the tradition. And that might come out of, any number of socioeconomic circumstances. I'm just saying that is the reality of growing up in a lot of countries. You're like, well, of course, I just keep living with my family because that's what you do when you live. You live with your family. And then obviously in the States, and a lot of Western European countries, it's like, well, yeah, once you're an adult, you move out and you don't live with your family. That's how life is. You just stop living with your family. And those are equally true realities for people. And it's easy to draw up a list of pros and cons for each situation, but it doesn't really matter. The practical differences are not as relevant as the fact that there are practical adherents living according to each perspective, with neither above or below the other. Both groups understand that reality of living with your family after you're an adult or not living with your family after you're an adult as just the way things are. After I saw that in something like living with your family after you're an adult or religion or something like that, I can see it everywhere. What's your mode of transportation? Well, cars, of course. You need a car to get everywhere. That's just what people drive. But if you're in most countries, it's like, well, a scooter, of course. That's so much more convenient, and that's what everybody drives. You don't need a car to get to most places. But it's just a funny cultural tradition that you grow up with, whether you prefer cars or scooters. But people in Malaysia prefer scooters because they're just more convenient, and that's the way people get around. You get a scooter. So these are all truisms, like deeply held beliefs that aren't based on a formal teaching. They are just the way you grew up, and that's how the world is, and you have to look around and through those memories shoved up inside your fishbowl. And then once you've lived in another country for a couple months or so, you're going, the differences around you of everything, whether it's religion or modes of transportation or foods or language or any examples I've mentioned, schooling, they're so different than what you've painted on the inside of your fishbowl, than what you collected inside your fishbowl, that you can't deny they're different. The images on your fishbowl can't cover up the stark differences happening outside of you. So very quickly, you'll be able to pop the fishbowl off your head, look down at it, and observe these traditional cultural beliefs that you just held as, well, that's the way things are. And this one way I understand it is the single most true reality. And then you look up and you're like, okay, but that's also the way things are. And if you go to a third country, again, okay, so that's the way things are. And none of those are incorrect. They're just showing you that each reality is equally valid. They're just showing you that many realities we think of as different, or we have conflated to include our inside image on the fishbowl, are actually different, and that's fine. We don't need to convert them or equate them to what we understand. They're just a new reality that you can understand and participate in if you like to, like traveling. Traveling is just a different lifestyle that is accessible, and if you would like to, then you can participate in it, even though it seems so different to how you understand your life now as a sedentary person. That statement is correct in all situations. That is just the way things are. It's just that there is not one way things are. Things can be tangibly different, but fundamentally similar. Supermarkets are different, but the same in India or China or the USA. They have a freezer section, you purchase stuff at the counter, there are shelves. There's no arcane supermarket knowledge in another country that's going to prevent you from shopping in fundamentally the same way you do at your home country. And I can't stress how valuable a lesson that is to learn. Because once you know that that's just the way things are, refers to a set of circumstances from a singular perspective, from a specific angle at a certain time that you can choose to participate in and take advantage of or not. It's your choice. Once you realize that that's the way things are a product of all of those details put together and can be shifted at any moment and exist simultaneously from different perspectives in 12 different countries, but very often can fundamentally be experiences you are comfortable and familiar with, the world kind of opens up, because then you get to choose what you do. Your behavior does not have to be dictated by what your behavior previously was. You get to carry your own perspectives and rules with you. Okay, well, if you want to travel, you have to be really careful. You have to plan ahead. You have to make sure you have a job first. You have to have connections in the country. You have all that stuff that's like, all right, yeah, for that person in their circumstances, from their perspective, that's how they think of it. Some people like to make checklists and organize everything beforehand. Other people don't, and other people are in the middle or elsewhere. Everyone can travel how they want to travel, and you can travel how you want to travel as well. But you don't have to live the way that they are living, and you don't have to think about traveling the way that other people think about traveling. I know people that travel with complete itineraries and everything planned out, checklists for their bags. And I know plenty of people who have no plans and forget things all the time. And travel is about an equally easy thing to do for both of them. There doesn't seem to be any difference in how their method corresponds to how easy it is to travel. You can understand traveling differently, holistically, how it fits into the rest of the world and your circumstances. Something that popped up in my mind after I moved to China for the first time and was now living in an expanded reality, where I was like, oh, that law doesn't exist here? You don't need a business license to open a restaurant on the side of the street. You just need a grill and some chairs, and that's totally normal here. One of the things was, I pictured someone walking down the street and there was a pile of trash, a pile of old scrap wood and some plastic, loose papers. And easily one person would be like, oh, trash. And then another guy could walk by and think, oh, that's a table. And so he takes the wood home and makes a table out of that wood. And two people saw the exact same thing, but to someone familiar with woodworking, wood is a construction of some sort automatically. And to someone who's maybe an accountant, let's say, they're not used to constructing things out of wood, so they just wouldn't think of it. And to the accountant, a pile of trash is a pile of trash. That's just the way things are. And to a carpenter, a pile of trash is a table, and that's just the way things are. All of this is to say that when I put together how I see traveling as easy, it is because I'm coming from having done it before and knowing about the ubiquity and abundance of available jobs, having the knowledge of how ticket prices work and how jobs are acquired, and just how this whole process works. It seems very simple to me because since I know how to do it, it is. If you don't know how to do it yet, then it won't seem as simple to you as it does to me. But after you do it, every single traveler I know would be like, oh yeah, he's correct. That's how traveling works. You get your travel documents and a ticket, and then you go there. And if you want a job and you're a fluent English speaker, then you have jobs available to you. And I want that to be inspiring. If you don't see how what I'm saying is possible now, you might just be looking at it through a fishbowl or from inside a fishbowl. Everybody grows up with one because everybody grows up in, even if you move around with a military family, your family is dictating how the world is perceived, and each new place gives you new norms and customs to shove into your fishbowl. Just like moving out of your parents' house and starting to do stuff independently will change how you see the world, moving out of your home country and doing things for yourself in another country is going to change your world again. All of a sudden, the entire world is open to you, and not just open, but accessible. And there's nothing weird or strange about not living in the country you were born in. The same way there's nothing strange about moving out to an apartment after you grew up in your family's house until you were an adult. Or even buying a new shirt after you've outgrown your favorite shirt from high school. Living in a new country isn't something you're required to do, but I do think it's important to recognize that it is an option that most people have. It's another thing you can do. It's another action you can take in your life. You can take guitar lessons. You can start traveling. You can go buy new shoes. It is not something you have to do. It's not something anyone should tell you that you must do. But traveling is something that you can do. So you make it sound so easy, like autonomic response. I had the same reaction the first time. The guy who hired me at a school in China was like, yeah, just come over here. I was like, okay, you're saying that like it's super easy. But now that I've done it, I know how simple the process actually is. Even to go to China, which has a more onerous visa process than other places, it'll take like 45 minutes instead of 25 minutes. But it's still extremely straightforward and simple. I make it sound easy because the process itself is so simple. So if you're starting from nothing and you were just like, brass tacks, how do I do it? I would say, 1, start selling all of your things. So anything that you don't need, just sell it at whatever price. It's not worth quibbling over. With the savings you have once you start traveling, you can just buy all that stuff again, and you'll have enough savings when you get back to the US if you do come back that you can buy all that stuff again. I just sell on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, whoever shows up, I'm like, yeah, take it. Because it's so much more freeing and less stressful to just sell that stuff and get a little bit of money back than it is to think about storing anything or having to keep my socket wrench set on hand for whenever I get back, because I can just buy another one when I get back for $40 off Craigslist anyway. So don't stress about which, last dollar you can eke out from the buyer. Sell all of your stuff and let it go. While you're selling your stuff, you can get your TEFL certification and your passport. Apply for your passport and then start taking your PDF online tests. Your passport will come back in a couple or a few weeks. You'll probably finish the TEFL certification by then. After that, buy a ticket to a Southeast Asian country for a couple $100, or we'll say $300, and you're done. That's it. You land in the country, you can get a job, and then start. And this is if you don't have a job already. If you have a remote job already, then all you need to do is get your passport and buy the ticket, and then you're set. Because if you have a remote job and you're surviving in the States, then you have more than enough money to thrive anywhere else in the world. But if you don't have a job, then I'm including the job as an extra step, which you can get very easily as a native speaker. Sell all your stuff, get your TEFL and passport. TEFL is optional. Fly to Asia for the highest pay and the most jobs. Or if you want to teach virtually or remotely, then fly anywhere you want to. Teach online. That's it. I make it sound so easy because it is a straightforward process. It's okay if you can't. If there's something preventing you from doing this, you can ask me at bitofarambler@gmail.com. I will get back to you. Or maybe you just need time to get used to the idea. I'm very okay with taking risks. I always have been. I jump off rocks into the ocean and that kind of stuff. So I didn't mind taking a chance and mailing my passport to New York so that I could get a Chinese visa. That's not how you have to do it. I just did it because I was like, well, if I don't get the passport back, I can just get another passport. I know there's a process for that, and it'll be flagged, so it's whatever. I didn't have a problem with going through that, but it makes perfect sense to me that if you've never traveled before and you live, especially in the United States, where everyone thinks traveling is this legendary pastime that only the ultra-rich can afford, then I understand why you're like, I dip my toe in first. I'm going to just do a little dipper and then see how things feel. I need like 6 months to get used to the idea of leaving my parents' house, leaving the country that I grew up in. Sure, take all the time you need. This isn't an exhortation to leave your life behind immediately. This is a disclaimer, a proclaimer? This is a proclamation that you have the ability to do that. As a fluent English speaker, you are just lucky enough, you have the privilege that you get to move to a country, you have a guaranteed thousands of jobs spread across different countries waiting for you that you get to pick and choose from. And because of the value of your native language, you can live anywhere, even if you don't have a job right now, perpetually abroad and save money. That is a viable option for you, if for whatever reason you need it. If you're in a tough situation and you don't have the money for blank, here's a way to instantly save money and lower your overhead cost by at least 50%, and usually much more. The cost of living in different countries, the spread of that cost of living between the highs and the lows is something to behold. I am blown away by how cheap India is. I mean, you hear about how cheap India is, but now that I'm here, it was very difficult for me to spend $100 in the first 6 weeks just eating food and riding my bicycle around. Like, that is I also don't go to nightclubs, or I don't need a bunch of drugs all the time. But I like them. So I don't have very expensive hobbies, but still, $100 for 6 weeks outside of the rent is pretty phenomenal. Because I'm just seeing all of these celebrations, dances, and they make statues out of clay. Like, the Hindu celebrations here are amazing. The temples are cool. I talk to all of these people. I'm learning Hindu words every day. It's just I'm getting some amazing life experiences just living here. And the cost is, I spent more on a private house because why not? It's still only $300. And then on food and entertainment, I've spent, a little over $100 so far in 6 weeks. And I'm getting all that I like to get out of traveling. I'm learning a ton. I'm surrounded by nice people. There's good food everywhere. New experiences everywhere. It's really interesting seeing cows, how do I say this, freely roaming the streets. Cows at liberty to inspect and occupy every corner of every building. Like they'll just walk into buildings sometimes. If the convenience store is open, I have straight up seen a cow just walk into the convenience store, just hang out, just check out the jelly candies and look around. And, they're Hindus, so they're not going to do anything about the cow. They just appreciate that the cow has visited their store until the cow decides to go away. It's amazing. It's great. And you can watch cows enter convenience stores too. The process is there. You can travel too. Feel free to message me and say no, I can't, or more productively, ask me a question. If you have a specific situation that you want advice on, or that you want to know if this would work for you also in blank situation, whatever it is, go ahead, email me, bitofarambler@gmail.com. I will get back to you. I love talking about traveling, as you can tell. And I hope that you take from this whatever is useful to you or entertaining, and then just throw the rest away, because who cares? Whatever. P.S. Another thing I occasionally hear with some regularity, usually after someone has joined me or has joined an English school, is, wow, I can't believe traveling is this easy. It really doesn't seem fair. They are correct. It's not fair. If someone's 7.5 feet tall, it's going to be easier for them to become a basketball player. If someone loves reading calculus in their spare time, it's going to be easier for them to become a mathematician or a math teacher. But if you are lucky enough to have been brought up as a native English speaker or diligent enough to have become a fluent English speaker, you have privilege. You have skills that you were lucky enough to have been brought up with or developed over your life. Like, you could have become a great violin player and you could look for a job as a violinist. But if you speak English fluently, there's a much higher demand for your skill and a way lower barrier to become a teacher of your particular skill, speaking English. You don't have to take advantage of your native English fluency, but it is a tool you should recognize you have. It is a skill that you should recognize you have in case you get into a situation in the US like financial destitution, which is a very common symptom of living in the United States. You have a skill that you have practiced from birth, speaking English, that people around the world will pay you for, and you can teach remotely, and then just travel to any country you want to go to and teach remotely that way. It's one of the most in-demand skills in the world, and if you happen to be from a native English-speaking country, or you are a fluent English speaker regardless of the country you're from, if you have a minimal accent, that is one of the most in-demand skills in the world that I'm aware of. You have a tool available that you can use to get yourself out of financial destitution. It's way easier to travel to another country and immediately not have any of those financial stressors. If you have debt, be able to pay off that debt almost immediately as soon as you get your paychecks, and still have access to everything you have access to in the United States. It's much easier to do that than live in the United States and have to wait 2 months for a doctor's appointment and get charged 2 months or more of your salary for every doctor's visit, while you're still paying your exorbitant rent and utility fees, and pay your car insurance because there's no viable mode of public transportation. And it's also easier to start traveling than you probably have been told. So is traveling and getting a job as easy as I'm making it sound? For a fluent English speaker, it is exactly as easy as I am making it sound. I've seen it countless times. I know all the regulations concerning fluent English speakers teaching English as Americans abroad. And not just for US citizens. I met people from Jordan and Morocco and Korea and everywhere who also perpetually travel, and they agree it's very simple to do. It's just that most people are not brought up understanding that it's simple to do. And it's only after they travel they realize, oh, that was a 1 or 2 step process. I either bought a ticket or I had to get my passport and then buy a ticket. I have heard the same thing from people from every country that I've been to who travel perpetually as well. People from Tanzania, South Korea, Nigeria, China, Malaysia, all around. Before they traveled, they thought it was going to be very difficult, and then once they started traveling, they realized how simple a process it actually was. All they had to figure out was the places they could afford to go, and how to make that minimum amount of money depending on where they wanted to go. And really, once you have those few numbers, you can figure out what's in your capacity to do. It just so happens that it's very easy for fluent English speakers to make money in any country by speaking English. So that's why I mentioned teaching English so much. So don't think this is an American-only thing. That's just the experience I'm familiar with and the experience I'm sharing with people on this podcast. But if you're French or Moroccan or Cambodian or whatever, you can travel also. I know people from your country who came from nothing and just started traveling because they could live better abroad than they could where they were. I'll talk to you later. Have a great day. I hope to hear from some of you and catch you on the flip-flop.